Well, here we all are. And look, you're right on time. That is, of course, if you're watching live. If you're watching the replay, well, sorry you couldn't make it from the very beginning, but we love you anyway. We're thinking about you, and we're talking about you behind your back. Not really. Well, first of all, I just want to say that if you have not been following all the events leading up to this particular broadcast, let me just do a formal introduction and also get the right stinking title up here, because that's the one you want to be looking at there, boundlesslivingchallenge.com. Now, before you go rushing off, unless you just already know that you've just been waiting for this moment to arise to join the Boundless Living Challenge, it is open. You can go jump over there, and you don't even have to watch this broadcast. But this broadcast is for those of you who maybe have heard from a friend or gotten an email or whatever, or been watching the series of events leading up to this day about what is this Boundless Living Challenge, or is this Boundless Living Challenge for me? That is what we are here to answer. But for the purposes of just sort of setting the groundwork for people who are brand new to this, who don't know who I am, maybe this was shared on your timeline or someone said, hey, you should check this out, let me introduce myself. Now, obviously my name is right here, so you're ahead of me on that one. I am Bob Doyle. I was one of the featured teachers in the film and the book The Secret. Here's my stack of credibility. Let's go through it real quickly, shall we? Just so you know that I know a little something about what I'm talking about, at least a little bit. There is one other thing I have to do real quick. Hold on. If you've ever watched the Bob Doyle show, you know that it's a technical circus. There's so much that goes on in this thing to make it happen, to make the magic happen. And so I'm trying to make that magic happen. All right. So first of all, this is The Secret. Now, this is a law of attraction film, and you may or may not be on board with the law of attraction. Maybe you've studied it forever. Maybe you tried it and already discounted it because it maybe didn't work the way you wanted it to. But let's just hold on, because this whole thing is not just about the law of attraction. And then there's this book. Maybe you recognize it. Maybe it's on your shelf. Maybe you've read it a million zillion times. I don't know. There's no way for me to know that. How would I possibly know that? I also am the author of this book, Wealth Beyond Reason. This is a 2004 publication, one of my earlier works, my first real book, actually, also about the law of attraction, based on the law of attraction curriculum, which I used to, that was my main foray into the marketplace. There's another little DVD on the law of attraction. You can see I've got a lot of background in the law of attraction, and this is my latest book, Follow Your Passion, Find Your Power, which is much more sort of philosophically in alignment with what we're talking about today. Which is, being who you want to be. Okay? And then, of course, the Boundless Living Challenge. Now, the Boundless Living Challenge launched for the first time 10 years ago. Okay? And this is a documentary about that. You can see I'm younger. No facial hair, And if you look real close, there's some gray hairs here that weren't there then. But hey, it's okay. It doesn't bother me a bit. It's better than not living that long to get gray hairs, right? Okay. So let's just first get to what the Boundless Living Challenge is, in essence, and then I'm going to talk more about it, about how it actually works, and of course the big question is it for you? Is this something that you can benefit from? Spoiler alert: yes, it is. So basically, the Boundless Living Challenge is giving you an environment where you can actually do the things you need to do to have the life that you want. Now, look, first of all, I know that sounds super cliche, and that every freaking person in the personal development industry says things like, live the life of your dreams, create the blah, 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 manifest this, that, the other. I totally get that. So bear with me, because I understand that I have a lot of filters to work through. I get that. But let me, if in fact, where you are in your life is not exactly where you want it to be, or you've been trying to get to a particular place for a long, long time and you haven't gotten there, just hear me out. You know what? You don't even have to look at my face. You could have this on in the background if you want to. But really, truly, what you're going to hear a lot of today is from real people who have been in this environment, and they're going to share their results. These are people from all kinds of backgrounds, all age ranges, just all over the place. So there's going to be somebody in this group of people that you meet that you're going to resonate with or connect with and go, oh, okay, well, if they can do it, they can. Let me say hello to a few people as you're coming in here. Whoops, that's not right. Hold on one second. We'll get this sorted out in just one moment. Just bear with me. We play it loose and casual here. Well, come on now. There we go. This should do it. See? Huh? So, welcome to Sakita, I guess is that Cheryl, Cher, and Camp and Kay. Good to see you. Juliana and Nicola. Anyway, forgive me if I mispronounce your name. I do love you anyway. It's just a learning curve. Okay? So, again, this is also about asking questions. Now, because I'm going to be talking to you and I'm going to be talking to a lot of people, I may miss your questions, so please forgive me. But my commitment is that I will answer every question that you have before I hit stop. I'm going to answer your question. So if I miss it, just ask it again, especially when I say, okay, I'm ready for your questions. Okay? So, but there's really only, if you look at why you don't have the life you want, it really comes down to some kind of action that isn't being taken, okay? Because the law of attraction and all of that, which is pretty much the subtext of all the work we do in the Boundless Living Challenge, it's not, I just want to be clear that this is not another law of attraction course per se, but the law of attraction clearly is running in the background. We use law of attraction principles and all of that, but again, from a very grounded point of view, and you do not even have to be on board with the law of attraction. You can come in like this about it. It's totally okay, because it's really just there to support you and give you some tools and techniques, and also make you realize, oh yeah, I see how my life has gotten where it is. But again, you don't have to be on board with that right now. Maybe you'll get on board as you do it. I don't know. But really, this is about, there's something that has stopped you from doing things, taking certain action to get you where you want to go. And you've got all sorts of reasons. It may be that you look out at the world and say, well, I can't do it because of them, or them, or them, or you know you've got your own stuff. So what I want to assure you about the Boundless Living Challenge is this is an environment where if you're a person who needs a step-by-step, who needs to understand, I just want to know exactly what to do. I don't want to deal with all the airy-fairy or new age or woo-woo or whatever like that. You know, I just want to know what to do. Then this is for you. And stay tuned. We're going to address that. And there are people who you're going to hear from who have been down that same road. And maybe you are a full-on action taker. Like there's nothing holding you back. You just don't know exactly what action to take, right? You want to have fun. That's another thing. This is not, while the road to getting where you want to go definitely has its ups and downs, because you know you're coming up against comfort zones and breaking through them, because that's really one of the main reasons you're not doing it, is because you get to a point of discomfort, right? So but this is about fun, and everybody who we talk to today can testify that I am committed to having fun. If you've ever watched the Bob Doyle show or any of the other things I do outside of just strictly law of attraction type of stuff, you'll know that it's about finding the fun in this. And this should be fun. Remember, the whole reason we're doing any of this is so that you can have a life you enjoy, a life that you love, where you're being who you want to be, doing what you want to do. And one of the main reasons that I find that people aren't enjoying their life isn't nearly as much about the stuff they don't have or the external stuff. It's that they're not in an environment where they get to be who they want to be, right? And that's something that gets squished out of us sometimes very early. You know, when we're kids and we're just playing around and I want to be this, I want to be this, and we're pretending, we're using our imaginations, and then somewhere along the line it's either the school system or, you know, parents who are trying to protect us from failure or whatever it is, we start to feel unsafe about just who we are, or thinking that we can't be who we want to be. And what I'm here to tell you is that it's never too late, as you will see. It's never too late to start being that, but the most important thing is to know who that is. Who do you want to be? And this is the whole underlying theme of all of this. Because I think the number one problem that people have with this whole creating their life by design or law of attraction or whatever is they're focused more on the things they want to manifest, or whatever word you want to use, rather than who am I even being in this? Because here's the secret here. You need to start being that now if you're ever going to use law of attraction speak, move into alignment with being that. Okay? The other thing that people need sometimes that stops them from being able to take this action is just some sort of environment where they feel nurtured, where they feel accepted, where they're believed in, where they get support, where they have accountability. Because a lot of times, You know, we're surrounded by people who are there appropriately, and what I mean by that is based on who we've been being, the right people are in our lives. Because so often we adjust who we really want to be to make other people happy. This you need to underline and highlight and build a little frame around, make copies of it, and put it in every room. Because so often we get off track in our lives because somewhere along the line we believe that it's more important for someone else to like us, to accept us, or to be comfortable than it is for us to just be who we are. And for a while that works, right? We get the relationship we wanted, or we get the job we wanted, right? Because we adjusted who we were to make those people happy or make those people comfortable. But guess what? That sneaks up on you. Am I right or am I right? Has that snuck up on you? Go ahead and tell me how much it snuck up on you. Robert, welcome. I'm glad that you're here for this. Look at this. Can you be Iron Man? Stephen, you can be whoever you want. Kim, welcome, welcome. And Charlene is watching now. Charlene, oh, she's in the room. Good, okay. We've got all sorts of exciting people who we're going to bring on here live to share their experience with this environment. So please bear with me. I will stop talking from time to time. But I want to set the groundwork. So this idea that we have to make everybody else happy stops us from sometimes taking action, or even declaring, or even daring to create a vision of who we really want to be, right? And if you just check in with yourself and look at how much you have adjusted who you really want to be, or squashed your own self-expression in your life because you think it'll make somebody else uncomfortable, or because of how you think you will be perceived by other people. So what if you had an environment where you could just truly just be who you want to be, or even try it on if you're not sure? Because this is what happens. You know, after a certain amount of time that we just adjust and adjust and adjust who we're being in the world, we lose sense of identity, and this is where depression comes in. This is where constant worry and fear and sadness and hopelessness comes in, because now we don't even know who we are, or we think we don't, or we've lost access to it. And so this Boundless Living Challenge area is a place where you can declare who you want to be and let it evolve. And if you don't know who you want to be, you can declare that. But at least you'll have an area where you can start playing with ideas, listening to other people, getting inspiration and support and accountability from other people, getting access to the tools and the resources you need to kind of do the rewiring. Because, folks, it is wiring. There is biology to this. You know, if just the slightest little dip into the world of brain science will let you know that we're wired. And we got wired in all kinds of ways. And it literally shapes the lens through which we see the world. Literally, we all have different wiring. We all see the same thing a little bit different. We can agree on a lot of things, you know. But there are some things that, I mean, look, there are so many examples of, especially in recent times, where people are going, how can you think that way? How can you believe that way? Don't you see the facts? Well, guess what? The facts are all made up in here. We make meaning out of literally everything. All meaning in our life we're creating, and that comes from our wiring, and we do it on autopilot. And if that wiring isn't serving you, if you find yourself always going to the negative, if you find yourself thinking the worst of yourself or other people or all of that's wiring. And it seems like truth to you, and yet you can look out in the world and see, well, but other people don't see it that way. Other people aren't led by the same quote-unquote truth that is ruling me. So you know, if you just look at it objectively, and so much of this work is learning how to look at things objectively, to being able to remove yourself, rise above the emotion that you're feeling and the meaning that you're making, and going, how can I be objective about this? Well, you're going to, in these conversations we hear, you're going to hear that some of the biggest breakthroughs that people have had doing this work is the ability to reframe what they thought for sure was unreframable. Like, if you just tend to go to the negative, guess what? That can be changed. It's going to be super uncomfortable and weird. Because here's another key concept that you need to understand. And for those of you who need to know that this will work, I want you to hear me, because this is logic. I'm a logical person, right? When I didn't dive into this law of attraction world willy-nilly because I wanted to. I mean, I did want to believe it, but that wasn't enough. I needed some science behind it. It needed to click. I needed to know that I wasn't making a mistake, right? And a lot of people will make the decision about joining this challenge based on whether or not it's the right or wrong thing to do. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to be proved wrong. They don't want to feel silly. They don't want to, be led down some goofy path. Guys, I get that. So please just keep listening. Most of everything I teach these days, and certainly as I coach, there's a law of attraction layer, but what's most important for most people is how does that show up practically? Right? You don't need to know all that law of attraction-y stuff. You don't need to know it, but it can certainly help. And if you're skeptical on it right now, that's fine too, because over the course of time in here, you'll be introduced to the concepts and you'll see that I do it in a grounded way, that I'm not making crazy claims. You'll see that. And then maybe slowly but surely you'll start to accept it. Or you won't, but it doesn't matter. As long as you are moved into taking action towards the things you want, you're going to get the results, right? And so the challenge is basically, it's like a big group coaching environment. So let me just tell you a little bit of the logistics of it so that you understand this is what it is and how it works. And then we're going to start talking to people, okay? And as I talk to these people, I'm sure there will be points when I jump in and elaborate on things, okay? But overall, this is about you getting past whatever it is, whether it's quote-unquote external or internal, that's stopping you from taking the action that is allowing you to be who you want to be. Because that's where the joy in life comes from, guys. It's not the money, it's not the houses, it's not the cars. All of those things can be great. But too many of us, myself included, know the feeling of acquiring those things and still feeling empty. Still not feeling the juice. Why? Because we're still not being who we are. Look, I'm going to share with you, after The Secret, obviously, when The Secret came out, I'd been teaching the law of attraction for a few years through the Wealth Beyond Reason program, digital program, everybody's self-study, all of that, right? And obviously, because it was worldwide, all over the place, my business exploded, and a lot of those material, external things came my way, right? And it looked like, oh, hooray, success. But guess what? There was still so much going on in here that I could not own the happiness part, because there were parts of my vision that were missing, and there was parts of me that were not being fully expressed. If you look at the Bob Doyle right after The Secret and how I occurred on videos or how I occurred in any of my marketing, you will see a very different guy than you're looking at right now. Because there was a whole aspect of my personality, the silliness, the fun, the creativity, the connection with actual real people that I was not exploring. Now, of course, there wasn't live streaming back then, and that, of course, has changed my whole life. And this is done, the Boundless Living Challenge is done in the context of live streaming. So let me tell you how it's structured. When you join the challenge, the very first thing that's going to happen is that you're going to be invited into a private Facebook group. This is where it all happens, okay? And in that Facebook group, I do 2 per month. Now just stay with me. 2 scheduled, for those of you who like schedules and knowing what's going to happen when, right? And there's those of you out there, I want to know when this is going to happen. I don't like it to be willy-nilly. I get it. 2 scheduled live Q&As. Now, if you've ever watched my live Q&As on Facebook, it's very much like that, except it's going to be obviously more directed towards you, what you're going through, and not just the general public. Because I'm going to get to know you, and you're going to get to know me. So it's Q&A, and it's answering your questions, and it's addressing particular topics, okay, related to this whole aspect of being who you are and taking action and all of that. But that is just the beginning, my friends. Because between those sessions, I'm in that group literally every day. I mean, I may go on vacation here and there, but for the most part, I'm in the group every day, and I'm answering your comments and questions. I'm posting new videos. Sometimes I'm going live spontaneously. The level of coaching you are getting from me in this group is out of control, and if you don't believe me, we'll talk to people and ask. Okay? Because look, first of all, I understand that I'm going to be saying things with a lot of confidence about how great this program is, right? Because why would I do anything other than that? And I understand that, of course, you expect that from me, right? It's got my name on it. So that's why I've got so many conversations we're going to have with other people, because I want you to hear from other people what their experience is, what their expectations were coming in, and then what actually happened when they actually joined. Okay? So the majority of this, after I get through this, is going to be conversations with other people. Okay? All right, well, Lucy, come back and watch the replay, okay? And welcome to Sharon and all of those who have come in here late. And again, if you have to bail, I understand. It's life. It's the weekend. You got stuff to do. You're living. You're living. You're having fun. I hope. I hope. And the replay will be here. The purpose of this is to get this out there. You can always come back and ask questions later, but I'd really, really like it if you hung out. Okay? So the basic, so from me, you're getting the coaching twice a week on a regular, or sorry, twice a month with those live broadcasts, and then all throughout. Okay? And you'll hear more about that as I talk to people. But that's just the beginning. You're also going to get access to a whole library of meditations and what we call release techniques, which will help you with those limiting beliefs and those negative feelings that come up when you even think about creating the life of your dreams. Because sometimes that's when that's why some people don't even get started. They start thinking about, oh, I'd love to be this, and immediately their ego shuts them down. Because another key thing you need to understand, and this is pivotal, stop what you're doing and listen to this. Your ego is your identity, okay? It's who you're being. Not necessarily who you are, and it's certainly not who you are sentenced to being for the rest of your life, but it's who you're being now. It's got a very strong sense of identity, and when you make the decision that I'm going to be something else, I'm going to be something bigger and better and more passionate, your ego freaks out. Why? And that's when all the noises start about why you can't do it, right? Why you shouldn't do it, why it's not safe, why you'll look like a fool, why all of that stuff, because it is clinging to its very existence. Think about it. Your ego is your identity. You are now getting ready to change that, make that go away. It's not comfortable with that at all. So everything it can do to survive, it's going to do. And that means it's going to tell you exactly what you need to hear to not take action. Does that make sense? I mean, wouldn't you do everything you could to save your own life? I hope. That's what the ego's doing. But one of the reasons it does that so strongly is because it doesn't even have an idea of what's better on the other side. You haven't fully developed the vision of who you are. If you're just saying I want to change and you don't have a clear vision of that, a clear picture of who am I going to be and why is that better? Why is that going to feel better? Why will I be more abundant? Why will my relationships be richer? What will that look and feel like? Your ego doesn't have anything. It's like, well, I don't know I'm jumping into an abyss here. You know, and it's the same thing with creating your vision. If you're not clear on your vision, you know, it's just like jumping into a void. If you're just looking at, I don't like this, and that's all you're doing, and you're just trying to solve all of your problems, that's not enough. Because, again, from a law of attraction point of view, you're mired in the energy of your problem. You're mired in the energy you are completely stuck in, I don't like this, and vibrationally, that's where you're stuck. Now, for those of you who aren't on board with the law of attraction, come on back. But just think about it. You're not going to take action that's going to, that if you don't, you know, some of you need to know. Some of you need to understand why you're going to get there. You're not comfortable with taking blind leaps of faith. Now, some of you don't care. Some of you are like, just tell me what to do. I'm going. And others just want to be taken care of, right? And then others of you just need, what's the plan? What's the plan? And we are providing every single bit of that for you. You're going to know what to do. You're going to know where to start, and you're going to have the love and support. Now, look, some of you may not have all that squishy, I need love and support feeling, but let me tell you something. The first time you get it, you're going to go, oh, I did need this. And maybe you don't know you need it because you just freaking haven't had it. You know, but the first time you get in there and you start sharing from your heart a little bit, you take a risk, you show some vulnerability. And instead of somebody on the outside, somebody telling you, oh, see, you're weak, or you da-da-da, instead, you got a whole community that swoops up and supports you and goes, I've been there. We are with you. We believe you. Your heart is going to expand. You're going to feel a whole new emotion, maybe, that you haven't had access to because you've been so busy trying to keep everybody else happy that you haven't taken care of this. And the minute you try to be something else, they go, hey, 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 hey. And you go, okay. I'll just keep doing this. And every day you feel a little bit more dead inside. Can anybody relate? If you can relate, type I can relate. Look, guys, I don't want to do this like a standard webinar because that drives me freaking nuts sometimes. But I do want to communicate. I want you to be engaged, and I want you to put yourself here, because it's so easy to watch something like this and just be passive and just go, oh, it's just another coaching program. It's not just another coaching program, okay? And I want you to be clear on that. So I've got all these recordings of, not everybody could make it live here today, because like I said, it's Saturday, but I have a handful of people who are very, very generous with their time yesterday, and we did some recordings, and so I want you to be able to hear from them. And these conversations, I want you to listen to them, because even if they're not people who are exactly like you, they are real people, and the stuff we come up against is very similar. No matter how it looks, no matter what the details are, we still get stopped by doubt. We still get stopped by fear. We still get stopped because of what other people say. Again, the details, the external stuff may be a little bit different, but when it comes down to it, the essence of things is still the same, and we can change it. But that wiring that we've got that keeps us doing the things that we're doing has to change, which takes consistency, and it takes persistence, it takes dedication, it takes a passion for getting where you want to go. Like, you really got to want it. But your ego will absolutely swoop in and dull the passion. It'll do whatever it has to do. However, it's a lot harder to do that when you immerse. And this is an everyday thing. This is a resource for you to go to every day. Look, guys, some of you have spent tens of thousands of dollars on an education to put you in a career that you thought was going to bring you happiness and abundance and all those things you want, right? But how many of you have been disappointed by that? You thought it was going to be this one thing because that's what everybody told you. Study, get the degree, go get this job, you'll be happy. Well, there may be aspects of who you are that you can express through that job, but it's not enough. And if you're not, and I'm not saying this isn't about quitting your job. It's about, if you love your job, that's great, but if you're still feeling that dissatisfaction, there's parts of you who aren't being expressed. And when you aren't, you're literally, think about it, guys, if you're not living who you really are, then if you're not living, you're dying. And some of you may feel like that part of you is dead, but it is not. If you even imagine that it's there, it is. It's just a seed that's maybe dried out and needs some water and some sunshine. And that's what the Boundless Living Challenge is. All right, I'm going to just bring in some people here. I'm just going to go from top to bottom. We got some people in a Zoom room here. I'm going to start up at the top. And this is our friend Sarah. Now, if you've been watching our live broadcast, you see Sarah a lot. She's like a star. Hi, Sarah. All right, Sarah. So obviously, I know, and all of you in the room, we could talk for a really long time about this, but let's try and keep it as concise as possible if we can, because we've got a lot of people. But tell us first of all how you got involved. Now, Sarah is a part of, and I want to make this clear too, real quick. Let me just say this. So the Boundless Living Challenge started 10 years ago. And we did it for several rounds, and then I went on and moved on to other things. But over the past couple of years or so, I got back into group coaching, right? Which is done, as I said, through live streaming, and it is all I want to do now. Because even though I've got the Wealth Beyond Reason program out there and lots of other programs out there, and look, they're good programs. I'm not apologizing for them on any level. I think they're some of the best. But I cannot jump through the internet and make you do them. I cannot make you take action on them. And if you're stuck and we're not in communication, I have no idea. And I don't know how to help you. But the group coaching, which is basically what the challenge is in a slightly different form, I'm with you all the time. I know you, you know me, we're a happy family, Barney. So this is why I love this format, and it's really all I'm doing. Okay? So Sarah came and joined us, I'm not even sure how long. It seems like a pretty long time in our group coaching, which is basically the same thing. The biggest difference between the group coaching that I've been doing the past few years and the challenge is the framework of we're up to something specific. There's an action we want to take. There's a milestone, a specific milestone we want to reach. All right, Sarah. So sorry. So when are you there?
I am.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Your mouth moved and I didn't hear your words, so I just want to make sure. So think back. Think back. I wish I had a harp sound effect. But think back to when you first just made the decision to join group coaching in the first place. What was the catalyst? What made you say yes to that?
I had been existing in a very dark place. I had left my husband. I was laid off from a job that I loved. I felt like I had lost my sense of identity. I therefore got involved with somebody who I should not have gotten involved with, and I felt that my heart had been broken. I'd been living in basements, and you talked about needing sun and water, and I just was to the point where I didn't want to be alive anymore.
That's pretty intense. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, it wasn't that I actively wanted to die. I just didn't want to be alive. I wasn't happy with my life. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted at all.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing where we're just like, what am I doing? It's not like you don't necessarily want to die, but it's just like, but I'm not really living either, right? So where's that juice going to come from? All right, so what was it about this that made you think, well, maybe I can get that there?
I was in between jobs, and because I just couldn't find happiness in the jobs because I was spinning the negativity. Everything that happened, I was looking at it as negative. And so I was in between jobs and was looking on Netflix and found The Secret. And when I watched The Secret, I liked the Law of Attraction page on Facebook, and I happened upon you doing one of your live Q&As. And I actually caught 2 of those before I jumped in and decided. And it was really just because the law of attraction, and because I saw the pattern of what I was doing, the negativity, and everything that I was feeling was I was attracting more of it. It was compounding itself. So everything that was being said made perfect sense to me, and I felt like that could be a way for me to break free from the cycle that I was in.
So I want to point out that Sarah has been in this group coaching program for, it's over a year now, right? Year and a half or something like that.
Correct.
And
the group coaching programs that you've offered.
Yeah, so I just want to point to the fact that if Sarah was, and some of these other people who have also done this, if they weren't getting value out of this, then they would not still be in the program. That's just sort of a, oh yeah, right? If this wasn't effective, if there wasn't value there, she would have tried it for a month and said, all right, I'm done, move on, right? So now that you've been in it for a while, why do you stay?
Well, you speak to it constantly, Bob, but the support of the group really is huge, because you do have so many people around you that are used to you being a certain way, and so not only is your ego comfortable with you being that way, but the people that are around you are used to that as well and expect it of you. And so when you have the group that can just build you up and help you see things in a different way and support you, I have made lifelong friends. And not to mention, of course, the coaching. And there's no explaining how good you are when you're actually, it's just because you do interact with us so much. And every time somebody is struggling, you are there and you absolutely step up. And whether or not somebody else in the group is going through the same thing, it has been proven time and time again that we all learn from whatever somebody else is going through, and we can find a situation in our own lives to apply it to.
That's a really great point, that all of the coaching can apply to everybody if you're listening in that way. Everybody's circumstances are a little bit different, but there are nuggets from coaching, whether it's coming from me or somebody else, that can oh yeah, let me try that on myself. So now let's kind of cut to the chase. Now you've been on quite a journey since we started here. What's the big impact here? Just kind of share what's happened for you. What's the big woo out of all of this?
The big impact for me was I don't need to overthink everything.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And yeah, and I was putting meaning to all those thoughts, and the reframing to everything that happened. You can look at the divorces as negative, or it can be a positive thing because it was a necessary change in my life. Same thing with the layoff, same thing with, you know, there are so many different ways you can look at the things that are happening in your life. And what I have done now is I decided I wasn't going to live in basements anymore, and I was ready to be that person that I wanted to be. And I now talk about sunshine and water. I'm looking out on a deck in California at the ocean and palm trees, and I'm not going to live in basements anymore.
Awesome. And so all of this comes down to what the heart of the challenge is about. It's about taking bold action that you probably would have never taken before. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely not. A year ago, if you would have said that I would be here now, I would have laughed. I would have been like, there's no possible way. And in reality, everything is possible. Everything is possible. I think learning, like I said, the reframing is huge, but also just breathe. Everybody just needs to breathe. Taking deep breaths and doing just some conscious breathing and meditations, it's a game changer, because you will get in touch with parts of yourself that you haven't been in touch with for a while, and you will be able to listen to your intuition, and you can trust where you're being led, and that you're being taken care of. The universe loves you and will take care of you.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I mean, and you know, we all know who are in the group with you just what a big, I mean, for some it may be listening, oh, she moved, but to know what Sarah had to go through to make that happen, it's pretty freaking huge. You know, it's pretty freaking huge. So congratulations on all of that. And of course, we love having you in the group, and you're a great example of what's possible when you just, you know, you mentioned overthinking, and I'm sure there's a lot of people here who are guilty of that, myself included. Everyone knows I'm a big overthinker. If you watched the progression of the launching of this challenge as I was, you know, doing these daily updates, you saw a lot of me overthinking, and the power of putting that aside cannot be understated. So again, thank you very much, Sarah, for sharing that part of your story.
Thank you, because it wouldn't have been possible without your coaching. I am here because of you. So thank you, and bless.
You're very nice. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to just move right along here because we've got so many people in the room. Again, ask your questions here. I'm looking real quick. I didn't see anything. Thomas, I will send you a link in just a moment. When I'm playing somebody else's videos, I'll send you a link. Thomas, who just commented here, was one of the original Boundless Living Challenge members. So let me go ahead and go to somebody else who's live here in the group. Oh wait, it looks like you're here. I see that you're in there now, Thomas. But let's go to LeAnn. I don't know what time of day it is over there, but I think she's staying up late for this. I could be wrong. But LeAnn has also, hi LeAnn. So LeAnn has also been with us for a while now in the group coaching, and has taken quite a journey. We often joke about someone needs to mute. Someone needs to mute. Whoever is, I think it's Thomas. I'm going to mute you, Thomas. We sometimes joke about when we first come into the group, one of the things I have people do is to introduce yourself via video, right? And it's a big step, and you're going to hear that addressed in some of these other conversations. And so when people come into this, there's often a great deal of heaviness because they're coming in with some really serious stuff. And we kind of joke sometimes about the before and afters of the videos of like who you were when you came in and how you occurred and how you talked and all of that stuff compared to, you know, after a little bit of time in the coaching. And LeAnn is one of those people who we sometimes smile about that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, LeAnn. So same kind of questions as I had for Sarah. What was it that brought you into the group in the first place?
I'd just moved to Berlin, and I was about a year in, and I'd moved to a place I hated, and I just didn't know where my career was going, and I felt really desperate and wasn't sure just what to do next. A bit like, you know, Sarah saying she just felt completely empty and that what now feeling. And I just purely you know, randomly went onto the Law of Attraction page and you were live talking about your coaching. And it just really resonated with me. And my ego came up straight away. Like, I didn't want to spend the money, even though it wasn't much money. It was like I'd heard it all before, kind of with The Secret, and it didn't really click. But I just went for it, and yeah, it changed things dramatically.
LeAnn is a great example, and it's really true of everybody in here, that through coaching, through this ongoing coaching, we sort of just, through osmosis, we better our own coaching skills. Not just with ourselves, but with others too. And I think that, you know, LeAnn has, well, everybody, there's not really an exception, but, you know, everybody steps up and is able to coach each other, sometimes in ways that I can't, because I'm not, you know, you're going to find people in the group who you resonate with on different levels. You have similar experiences. Maybe we're closer in age or whatever it is. But can you speak to that? Like how, besides just me and coaching, and you know, what happens between the group members in terms of supporting each other?
Well, I've also made friends that I also consider family, and I've shared in the group things I've never shared with anybody before, because it's such a safe space. And when you can't see past your own fear or frustration or anger or whatever it is, there's the group there, because we're not all in it kind of at the same time with those really heavy moments. And it just gives me a place to go where I can say what I need to say without fear of judgment, and knowing that there's going to be someone there immediately coming in to lift me up again and just give me some tough love that I need. And I couldn't have done it without that support. And especially the amount of things that have come up from my past and my childhood that I needed to deal with, but I'd never kind of acknowledged because I didn't feel safe to. This group has helped me to do that. And it's an ongoing thing. I'm having big realizations at the moment, which are again changing everything for me. But without the group, I couldn't have done that.
I want to also mention that, you know, Sarah mentioned meditation and things like that. These are tools that, you know, that we talk about because it's really necessary. And if you're a person who doesn't know much about meditation or thinks it's part of the woo-woo or new age conversation, believe me, we're going to change your mind on that. Just briefly, the importance of being able to shut this noise off, if even for just a few minutes at a time, is crucial. We overthink, and we literally wear our brains out. One of the things that LeAnn brought to and this has happened in several different areas from the group members. LeAnn kind of took on at one point a personal challenge to meditate. I think something like 2 hours a day or something just insane. But what that did was it brought meditation to the forefront of the conversation in the group. And as a result, almost all of us upped our meditation game. You know, we learned about meditation apps that we share and we listen to, and it's helped everybody across the board because, in this case, LeAnn brought meditation to the forefront. And we all said, yeah, you know, we really, even though I talk about it, it's like I could do a better job of doing that, you know, because I got a very active brain. I'm up to a lot of things, and if we don't calm that down, can you just briefly speak to the impact that meditation has had for you personally?
Yeah, it's brought me to, I don't tend to panic anymore. Like I'm about to leave the apartment that I've been moaning about for 2 years, and I don't have a new apartment to go to. Now, usually that would be like a what the hell moment. I can't leave one thing without having the next thing in place, but I'm just taking more action without the need to know what comes next. I can trust my process more. I tend to soak up a lot of energy. So meditation just helps me to protect my own energy from negativity, and I sleep better, my health is better, my focus is better. And just the visualization part of all of this, kind of getting into that quiet space to feel more than conceptualize, to really get in touch with myself. And it's just my place to go where I can calm down and listen to myself and shut off from the noise and Facebook and whatever else is, you know, being thrown in my face, the news, for example, and all these things that just, for me, too much of that, and I start to get fearful and panicky and back into that kind of sheep mentality. Money's hard to come by and all the rest of it. So meditation just keeps me in that place of stillness and confidence and peace.
Now, again, you've been with us for a while, and you've taken on all sorts of different things. You've been through all sorts of different challenges, relationship, professional, just all sorts of amazing things. If you kind of had to name one big takeaway, the impact, the action, some bold. You mentioned leaving this apartment, which, you know, again, we who've worked with you know that you just sort of said this apartment that I've been moaning about. I mean, she's been moaning. It's not a good situation. I mean, and so the fact that she's taken that action, that's a bold thing. But is there something else, like something that you can point to that say, yeah, this is like, if there's been any one thing I had to name of the impact of being in this, what was it?
I mean, other than I'm just so much more certain that the life I want to live is not only possible, but a lot easier than I've been making it. But I think the transition of my 8-year relationship, which wasn't a bad relationship, but needed to just be a friendship, I finally went through that. And it was so painful, but now we're on the other side. We managed to go through a very conscious, loving breakup. Because again, I could come to the group and talk about that and share that pain I was feeling and the guilt. So just how much I've developed in being able to deal with what life gives to us in a really loving way instead of with anger and resentment. And that's the biggest thing for me.
And it's huge. It's that same thing that we've been talking about, that learning to reframe, learning to make different meaning out of what's coming at us. Guys, our whole lives can change all about that. If we can just learn to make the things that we historically make negative, if we can learn how to make them positive and find the gift in them, that is such a freaking life game changer. It's amazing. So thank you, LeAnn. I know.
Just one last thing, because you know from my last videos in the coaching group, how much I've let go of a few things. I was holding on to some resentments around people and about my career, and I let that go, and opportunities came from directions I never would have expected.
Right.
So just forgive and let things go.
Letting go is huge, because energetically, if we're talking on that level, I mean, when we hang on to resentments and not, you know, and just those old ideas that don't serve us, we know, we check in, they don't feel good. Why are we hanging on to that? That's just a conscious choice. You know, a lot of times it's about being right. And so for those of you people out there who need to be right all the time, I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it. And to the extent that it is costing you the quality of your life, guess what? You have a choice. You know, you can be right or you can be happy, and sometimes you can be both. But sometimes you feel like you can't be happy and right at the same time because, oh my God, that all happened. I need to hold that grudge. Anyway, LeAnn, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, so now we have a question here from Vicky that I want to address. She says she's been a pediatric nurse for 35 years. Not a job I've ever truly loved, but done as a duty. My passion is art, and I'm pretty good at painting and drawing. How do I find the courage to follow my passion? Any advice? So my question is, and we would need to do some back and forth on this, is are you spending any time doing it? How much time are you spending on doing it? And when you do it, what feelings come up? Do you feel guilty? Oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or I'll never get to do this. Like, is there a heaviness around it? Because first of all, there's this whole idea that following your passion means that it needs to be your primary source of income. Now, it's not to say that it won't be, but when we have that attachment, when we have that belief that it has to be, otherwise we're not doing it right, then, oh my God, our ego kicks in like crazy, and we've got all this weird energy around it, and we have to know exactly how it's all going to work, and then we stop ourselves from doing it. You know, you do it for the joy of doing it. You share it as boldly as you can. If you're a painting, if you paint and you draw, how do you share that with people? How do you share it? You know, like one of the things that I know that has had huge breakthroughs for some people who are artists and musicians, certainly for me, live streaming, sharing myself playing the ukulele or whatever, changed my whole life. Because it's not about making, because I'm not making money playing the ukulele, but my God, you know, to be able to express that part of myself and to get feedback, you know, and just know that I'm doing it is huge. And guess what? I stand a much better chance of it turning into some sort of revenue stream or having the right person see it or ask me to do something with it or whatever, because I'm sharing it. So what I would tell you, Vicky, is to be, this is about being an artist rather than doing the art, right? So you're doing being a nurse. You said it yourself, you feel like it's a sense of duty. Maybe it's because you went to school for it and you spent all this time and money and invested all those years in your life, and now you feel like you got to do it. I'm not telling anybody to quit their job, because then people start freaking out about money, right? Be grateful that you have a job that you don't hate, that's definitely doing good in the world, so you can feel really great about that, and go be that artist. And don't make it mean like it has to look any particular way. Just embody that artist in you. Embrace the fact that you are a painter and a drawer. Is that a word? Right? So don't worry. So there's no courage. Just start doing it. Right? Now, again, if you have fear around it, maybe it's because you've got an idea that means you got to quit nursing and then go explore being a full-time artist. Well, that's just your ego's gonna go nuts. You know, all the sense of responsibility is going to kick in, and it's going to be a lot more difficult journey than it needs to be. Embrace that artist in you now. We've had people in the first challenge, that was they set forth in 45 days, I'm going to do this many paintings. That was their challenge. The challenge can be all sorts of things. In my case, it was about getting over a fear of playing music in public. Other people, it was about leaving toxic relationships or toxic jobs or whatever, right? So, and you're going to hear from some people here shortly who were actually in the chat. In fact, Thomas, if you'll turn on your camera so that I know that it's working, I will bring you in. If not next, but right after that. So turn on your camera so that I know it's working, so that we are sure that we can see your face. In the meantime, I'm gonna click over to somebody else here. This is a recording that I made. Now this is a little bit longer of a conversation, but the reason I let it go on as long as it did is because this person, Elena, touches so many different points of what you can get out of the challenge. So many different factors, so many different aspects of sharing yourself, of being vulnerable, of letting your challenge evolve as time goes on. So I urge you to listen to Elena, and again, ask as many questions as you need. All right, this is Elena McMillan, and she was one of the original Boundless Living participants 10 short years ago. We're still all very young people here, just to clarify. So Elena and I have stayed in touch, just like most of the people, you know, in the challenge. These relationships have maintained. But Elena, I want you to share with people, what was it about, because we didn't know each other before the challenge started. So what was it about the whole offering of the Boundless Living Challenge that called to you personally?
Time. It was just the perfect time for me. I was going through all this change, and I felt like some structure would probably make a difference.
Now, was there a law of attraction aspect that was appealing, or was it just the I am ready to make a move kind of thing? Like, what was it about this? Because I mean, you know, there's no end to offerings out there in terms of coaching and things like that. What was it about this one that said, yeah, that's the one?
I think part of it, certainly I knew about you from The Secret, and I was intrigued by the law of attraction. And I think another factor for me was I really liked the idea of a 45-day structure, and it was like a game, and I'm kind of motivated by games. And I like the idea of support from the community.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that part, but yes, that whole having a kind of a cutoff point. You know, it's not that everything's done necessarily in 45 days, but having that target date, that just appealed to your sensibilities a bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Now, you know, there was a lot of stuff you were going through. Did you find that when you came into the challenge that what you came in there for evolved?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I was there for one specific goal, and I walked out of there with so much clarity and in so many other areas of my life. And so I definitely addressed the thing that I went in there with, and then I had all these other opportunities open up.
So what do you think? I mean, I know because there was so much, and you did, I think, more than just the first round, I think. I mean, we did several rounds. I think you were there for at least a couple. But what do you think, when you look back over 10 years, what do you think is the biggest impact or impacts, you know, if you had to pick a couple of things maybe, that you took with you from that maybe are still even, you know, impacting you today, that you still see the effects from?
Sure. Without a doubt, that would be the authenticity, the really being able to get vulnerable and get honest and get real. It was a huge personal breakthrough for me, and then it was something that I was able to take out and use in areas of my life I never imagined, and I ended up doing things, you know, professionally, and it was a huge contribution to me.
Let's talk about that vulnerability thing, because you have shared with me that, and I've talked about that this is a safe space, right? And this is an area where vulnerability and authenticity are absolutely key. And you were truly, I think, among one of the first people to really sort of break some ground in that area and show people what was sort of quote unquote allowed in that space. And it really opened up. Can you share just a bit of that?
Sure. I've never really been a crier, and I was doing videos. They made me a little uncomfortable, so I thought it might be a good idea. And the very first video I did, I burst into tears, and I kept redoing the video, and I just kept bursting into tears. And at some point, I was probably just exhausted. I decided, I guess I'm supposed to cry, and I posted that video, and it really laid the foundation for me, and maybe for the group, the level of authenticity I was going to go to in this challenge. And I think that invited other people to do it too.
Right, because I think if we're all just trying to play it safe in a group like this, then we're not really going to get the impact. And so, I mean, this is kind of a gimme, but clearly that laid the groundwork for not just better results for you, but also real, authentic relationships. Can you speak to the quality of the relationships in the group?
Oh, 10 years ago, I still talk to the majority of people I connected with. It was a level of support that you wouldn't necessarily, I did not go into it thinking, oh, there'll be people all over the country, maybe all over the world, and we'll feel connected in a way that is, almost hard to explain. That was not my, I didn't believe that it would happen like that. And it was so amazing. And I think part of that is just because you're showing up vulnerable, and they're showing up vulnerable, and that is just, gives you instant intimacy. And that's, I think, why those relationships have lasted.
So do you feel like that, I mean, and this may be something you have to think about, but since we've talked about this a little bit, maybe you've already thought about it, but we've talked about the impact that you had, but the residual, like, do you feel like this changed you? I know I'm spoon feeding you this, so, but changed a way of being for you that, you learned things about authenticity, perhaps, about vulnerability, about connection that have served you as you've gone through the rest of your life, taking on certain risks that maybe you wouldn't have taken, or things like that. I know I don't expect you to go, no, Bob, but maybe you could speak more specifically to it.
Yes, no doubt about it. I mean, I went on to do radio. I had a show called Naked Talk Radio about, being authentic, and my guests would share authentically as well. And I've gone on to do stand-up comedy, and all of my comedy is, so true and real and raw. My relationships, early on, I was able to communicate the level of vulnerability and intimacy I wanted in a relationship, and was able to create like the relationship of my dreams. That sounds trite, but it really is. It's an amazing relationship, and all of those things come out of my ability to own my vulnerability, not be afraid of it, not be apologetic about it or ashamed, and really just weave that into who I've become. And it shows up in every area of my life, no doubt about it. And that was directly from the Boundless Living Challenge.
Now, we've sort of already talked about this, and I probably should have commented about it before, but I talk all the time about when I do group coaching that you really do get out of it what you bring to it, your level of participation. And clearly, since you talked about, making videos where you're crying and are vulnerable and showing up, what would you say, and the people obviously that I know are still in contact today, and the people whose results I know about even to this day, are the people who did come to play, who did come in there and do videos and stuff like that. Just what would you say about that, about the level of participation, even if it's scary at first?
Definitely there's a direct correlation between the results and the level of participation, no doubt about it. But having said that, I feel like it's important for me to share that I'm not necessarily wired for follow through. Like, it was not predictable that I would last for the whole 45 days or that I would be a consistent player. I feel like that's important. I don't know if you know that, actually.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was not how I showed up in this environment, but it speaks to the environment, because I was so able to, like, I'm trying to find the right word, like, fortify who I was becoming. You know, I was going through a divorce, and I was quitting my job, and I had all this change, and it was a real opportunity for me to recreate myself, not out of looking good, not out of fear, not out of, you know, anything that has driven me in the past, but just out of this clean space and total support and the ability to share, you know, what I wanted without being worried about not achieving it. You know, I was able to share authentically. And I guess in the past, I've only like shared that I want something if I know I can get it and then I can succeed at it. And I did this completely different. I shared all kinds of things. I had no idea how I would do it. And some of them I was able to achieve, and some of them I wasn't. But there was something about that community that had me keep showing up, no doubt about it.
That's really pivotal, because of course that was my experience. I went into it with my own challenge thinking, oh, well, this will just be about shaking off some nerves about performing, and then it ended up becoming this ridiculously deep thing, and also not knowing as the facilitator, how much am I really going to share of my personal stuff, and then realizing that if I don't, I'm not just cheating myself, but I'm cheating everybody else. And you were a great example of that. Well, Elena, thanks for taking the time to share your experience with us. And it's just, and I'm so grateful that you and so many of the others that were participants 10 years ago, that we're all still in communication and really true solid friends, even after all of this time. Even though we may not talk for long periods of a time, there's that, you know, we all have people in our lives where we just know that we can always take up where we left off, and you and those people are all fit into that category. So it's just been,
it's a special connection.
It really is. All right, well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
You bet.
Isn't that fun? All right, so let me just take a second, because Jane asked a question: what happens at the end of the challenge? What can you do to continue any successes that you've gained? So let's not think about it as an end, because this is something I brought up in some of the broadcasts leading up to this point, and that is that, you know, you can think about this as something that you do for 45 days, or you can think about this as an investment in the rest of your life, or however long. I've got no delusions thinking that someone's going to be in here for the rest of their life, but I invite you to play with the idea that if it's serving you, why would you stop? It's not that it's so expensive that it's, you know, that it's a burden. And look, if you're not getting the value out of it, that's one thing. If you come in here and it's not working for you, well, then why would you stay in it? But if it is working for you, why would you leave it? Right? If you've got that support, if you're getting the results, if you're staying in action, like, so I invite you to not think about this as coming in about when this is over, because this is our life that we're talking about, and hopefully our lives will continue, right? We're going to continue, and as we reach one goal or realize one thing, we're going to have another one, and which means we're going to come up against different levels of comfort zone and all that other stuff. Let's just take a peek real quick at this. This is the Boundless Living Challenge page. I've been showing you the URL right there on my screen. When you come in here, whoops, I want it to stay. Why won't it? It won't stay. So this, just to go through it again, just some of these are, and I invite you all to listen to these testimonials. These are some of the people you've met, you know, and you're going to meet Jonathan here in a second. But just as, you know, for those of you who like to know what's included, hopefully you get the idea that what this is about is the result, and all of these features, if you will, they're just there, you know, this is how we're doing it. But it's such an organic thing. It changes all, you know, I change what I need to do to get the group where it needs to go. But we'll always have monthly live stream Q&A. You're always going to have everyday access to me. The hot seat coaching is where we meet in an environment, we go face to face. That's an optional thing. We can talk about that later. Like I said, the whole meditation library, the community, obviously we've talked about, and then the recorded archive of everything. Now, guys, I just want you to take a second and look at this pricing, okay? And before you start, whatever your reaction is, just I want you to understand what we're getting here. If you've ever looked into coaching, if you've ever dealt with anybody in this, myself included, I mean, when I did one-on-one coaching, it was 10 times more than what you're looking at here in the middle for 10 sessions. But because of the way that the group is done, it doesn't have to be that much. Now, we have different ways you can get into it, and believe me, we've still got plenty more stories here to talk about here, but I wanted to, at least for those of you who are wondering, now you could, of course, gone to this page at any time. You're getting the same stuff. Everything in every bullet point here is the same for every feature. All these are different ways you can do it. $67 a month. That is a month-to-month thing. Again, This is your life we're talking about. I want you to, it's very easy to think about what you're spending or what you're out, right? Oh, I can't, I don't want to be out $67, or I don't want to spend. This is an investment in the enjoyment of your life. The enjoyment of your life. The reason people pay huge dollars for coaching is because they want results, right? And they're willing to invest in that because they're ready to take the action. So I don't want you to, regardless, you could look at these two ways. Depending on what level you play at in your life, you could look at this and go, well, how much value could I get for that low amount? And for some people, it might be a stretch. So you see, again, there's no truth in any of this. These are just numbers. And my goal here is to make this ridiculously affordable. If you do it a year in advance, like, by the way, our friend Loretta, who's watching, she is officially the first one who signed up last night when we opened this up, right? You know, she looked at it and said, well, the year obviously is better because, you know, I'm saving all this money. I'm saving 30%, and I'm in it for the long haul. Again, it's an investment. People come into these programs with the tire kicker mentality. Well, we'll see if it works. We'll see if it works. And I get that. I really do get that. And if you come in and you play full out and it's not working for you, okay, I get it. But see, Loretta has followed me for quite a while. She knows, she's got the confidence that it's going to deliver. So for her, it's a no-brainer, right? Let's do the year because, you know, it's her life. But if you're just meeting me or you're not really sure, you can come in and do the monthly until you're really clear, like, oh, this is it. And then you can upgrade to the yearly, okay? Let's move back on to some stories. We got some people here in the live room I want to honor. So let me go to Charlene. Now, Charlene, I'm just going to let you meet Charlene. So Charlene has been part of our group coaching program in the past, and if you happen to follow Charlene, you're going to find out she's just an extraordinary person. So Charlene, I'm so happy that you're here today. Say hello, so I know you're here. Okay, good. Just want to know you're here. So Charlene, what brought you into the program in the first place? Because, you know, you are a very wise soul. And, you know, there's a lot, for all the people out there who, quote unquote, know this already, right? I think you would definitely fall into that category. You're well educated in these principles. You're very grounded. You know, so what made you say, well, I'm gonna bring on some coaching into my life?
So as much as I was, quote unquote, grounded at that time, I was actually so not. I knew all the principles. I knew how this works. I knew theoretically, I know everything about it. However, I just was at the point in my life, that was 1 year ago. So I was at the point of my life in which I was just so depressed and so unhappy with where I was. I was earning well. I was doing well with my life, but there was just that sense of I had to do something more. And that I was so frustrated with the person I was working with at that time. And then I randomly scrolled through Facebook, and then I saw you promoting your coaching program in the Law of Attraction page. And I just had that 2-minute window of decision in which it just felt right to me to be there. And I just jumped in just because I had for me, it was just like I had no other. I've always been led to. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences. Neither do we all. I assume. And that, for me, seeing that video of you being live was just not only a sign for me, but a direction that will lead me to something more. So I just went on with my gut and just bought it. And to be honest, that was one of the last, my clients' payments were not yet there in my bank account, and that was one of the last $200 in my bank account. And I just immediately just signed up because for me it just made so much sense that I will, because I just took it as a clear direction from the universe, so to speak.
That's awesome. So what do you think was the takeaway for you, the big takeaway from you with our time together?
Well, number one is, as I've mentioned, I've known all about this stuff, but knowing it is different from actually emotionally getting it, right? So the group just paved the way for me and just kind of like became my safe spot to be who I am, to express myself. That's one. the second thing is, you have no idea how much you changed my life, Bob. I mean, looking back, I mean, looking forwards from where I was, I couldn't make sense of it, like how exactly my life was changed. But looking back, it just made total sense. Joining that program led me to know one of the persons who linked me to one of the people who became my business partner, who became my mentor, who became a mother to me, who became like a best friend to me. And that person led me to another person who became one of my very, very, very best friends. And that my life, just because of joining that program, if I didn't have the 2-minute window of opportunity to decide, if I didn't grab that, my life wouldn't be the same again. And I'm not saying this out of exaggeration or because I'm your affiliate. I'm just so grateful that I did that, John. And I'm just so grateful that you became that vessel for me to find that sense of direction in my life, because right now I couldn't be happier with my life.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you. That's very humbling to hear. But you speak to something that's really super powerful for people, and that is to trust that intuitive nudge, because you just never know. You could not have predicted all of those things you said. You can't come in with the plan that you're going to meet these people like you described. There's no way you can know that. But what you did know was, I feel moved to take this action for whatever reason. And even though in your case you even said, and I didn't know this until you just shared that financially it was a stretch. It was like a bold leap of faith that you took, and it paid off in ways that you couldn't possibly have imagined, right? So there's a huge valuable lesson there. So anyway, well, thank you for the update and sharing all of that, and again, really, truly for your kind words. You also have inspired all of us who know you too in very real ways. So just thank you for being who you're being and showing up out there. And if we played any role in that, then that's her big hooray.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
All right, thanks, Charlene. All right, well, hooray for that too. I want to just take a second and acknowledge and say hello to some of the people who've walked in. Martin and Tina and Iwan, I guess is how you pronounce that. And Joe snuck in as well, and Sal, and you see I'm scrolling. Okay, so let's just keep on going, because we've got all these people with these great stories. Now, I saw Thomas, your camera was on there for a second, and then it went off. So I'm going to jump over to Steve real quick, and then we're going to go to Thomas, and then I've got some other people who I talked to yesterday. So Steve is another person who has been in our group coaching program for over a year, I think, and also been a great contributor to the group in general, and is up to a lot of amazing things as well. And so Steve, again, same question. What was it that made you jump in the first place?
Well, I had been on your mailing list since The Secret. I'd been kind of following you since then, and I never really participated in any of your programs. But I had gotten an email, it was in 2016, I'm going to say now, when the live streaming thing first started to take off, and you were going to go live and talk about what turned out to be the click process, which was you giving up drinking or just relating to any sort of habit. And I was on the verge of quitting smoking. I was really ready to do it, and I'd been smoking cigarettes for 25 years, and then I went and watched the replay of that, and then immediately quit smoking. And I've been smoke-free almost 2 years now. And then the first program that you launched, the group program, was the following February, so last year, 2017, and I joined that because I was just incredibly inspired by everything from that experience. And
so now, again, you've been on a hell of a journey. So many different areas, from relationship to career to all kinds of things. Moving, kind of like LeAnn, like leaving a place that just was not right for you on any level, and then finding a place that you love. So what do you think? There's so many things you could talk about, but if you had to kind of overall, what's the big impact of doing this and committing? Because we talked about Jane's question about what do you do when it's over. Right, but you and Sarah and LeAnn, you've continued. It's not a over thing. It's like why would I stop this type of thing? So tell us about, I guess, the overall impact that this has had on your life journey, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's never over. The conversation always can always continue because life continues. And I mean, since I joined that first group, I bought a new car. I moved to the nicest apartment I've ever been in. I've, changed jobs. And like I said, I went through some difficult times with relationships with other people, very difficult. And having this group environment really helped me get past it much quicker than I ever would have on my own.
And also, can you speak to, because, we've talked a couple of times about the tools and resources that are brought up, and, when you have those really tough emotional times, it's not, we're not just like talking you through it, we're giving you actual tools that you can use. And you were an example of, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but this is very, very common sometimes, that people can be presented with the tools and still resist using them. Right.
Sure.
And I think that there was a couple of times there where it's like, well, Steve, there's these things. Are you doing them? Well, no. So can you speak to that journey of kind of resisting the tools, why you think you might have even resisted them, and then what happened when you stopped resisting them?
Yeah, because you hear it all over, when people talk about law of attraction, there's other teachers out there that say, well, you just do this and do this and do this. And I guess I got kind of jaded with that, just having these tools all thrown at me and thinking, that's not going to work. And, so I was skeptical. But you were so emphatic about how well these things work. And I said, okay, I'm going to put aside my skepticism and try it. And immediate results. You just see, okay, oh, this is what it is. It's not so woo-woo. It's not so complicated. It's not so involved. It's just a simple technique that you can do for yourself that doesn't take a long time, but the transformation in you, it's leaps and bounds. So it's...
Right. And we all do that. We all sometimes go, we know the tool set, and our ego, again, we go back to the concept of the ego not wanting us to change. Like if we can identify that, if we learn this, and a lot of times it's just being reminded that we can get into observation mode, that we, and when we're saying, geez, I feel bad, I've got a tool and I'm not using it, what is that about, right? And when we can rise above that and go, well, of course, it's our ego just trying to cling on to the way things are, and so, and not let that get the best of us. And it's not easy. It's not easy because the ego makes a lot of sense. It knows everything to say in order to keep us from taking that action. But once we just do it, and I was the same way. When I was first introduced to EFT years ago, I didn't do it for a year, because to me it was like tapping. What, But once I just did it that first time, it was like you said, immediate results. Like, well, what is this about, right? So now I know. So now, and there's been a couple of tools, like another tool that we talk about is PS Tech that I had been recommending, but it was, again, one of our members who brought it to the forefront, like LeAnn did with meditation. David came forth and said, guys, I'm really digging into this. You need to be doing this more. And a lot of us just jumped on board and we're like, oh my God, you're right. This isn't just something, we should be utilizing this on a regular basis. So these tools, this tool set stuff and meditation, this is no small part of what it is to be in the group. And it is one thing to know about them. It's another thing entirely to use them. Yes. Anything else you want to say to kind of wrap it up?
I do. For people out there that are watching this and you're maybe, feeling a little nudge to do it, but you're still kind of skeptical, I want to tell you about the advantage of having the group environment. Everybody has challenges in life, and everybody has something that they want to achieve, or something they want to obtain. And you're going to have family and friends around you that will give you advice and try to point you in the right direction. But quite often, your family and friends they're going to give advice based on their own agenda. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot. The difference here in this group environment is you're talking to people from all over the world, from all age groups, all kind of different environments and backgrounds, that are going to hear your story and are going to try to point you in the right direction and give you objective feedback. There's no agenda from anybody that's giving you advice. Any personal agenda, there's no personal gain that anybody's trying to get, other than trying to see you achieve what it is you want. There's absolute truth. You're going to meet people in here that you're going to forge relationships with and friendships with, that you're going to take outside the group, and you're going to grow this whole experience just from this group. I mean, what you're charging for this is you're giving it away. I mean,
know.
this is life. I mean, seriously, this is life changing. Anybody out there that has a little nudge, get in there and try it, and you're going to see immediately. You're going to, even for me, somebody, I work in public, and I was still like a little shy about it, a little skeptical about sharing some things. But as LeAnn said, as Sarah said, it's a safe environment. You can go there, and it's also 24/7. You can, you know, I work at night, and sometimes maybe I'll come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and feel like, oh God, I want to talk to somebody, and I can go into the group live and talk, and there'll be somebody that's in another part of the world that's awake, and will join in and say, you know, Steve, everything's cool, you know, and give me some just comfort or anything, advice, and it's invaluable.
Wow, man, and yes, all that last stuff is true. That whole 24/7, and you just never know who's going to be there, and the ability to go live and kind of do a stream of consciousness and just process. It's just really a healthy environment. But what you said about the agenda stuff, you know, that I hadn't thought about saying that today, but you're right. Part of the whole thing about people who are in your life, no matter how well-meaning they think they're being, they've got an agenda. And a lot of it has to do with them being comfortable with who you're being. Now, that's not, again, like you said, that's not true across the board. But I think that most of us can probably, if we tune in a little bit, we can tell. If we're telling someone in our life about our strongest passion, the things that we want, and they're giving us any reason at all why we can't be it, trust me, there's an agenda. They may not know it, but it has to do with what they believe is possible, and they're going to say for you or whatever, but it's really that you have presented something to them that is like beyond their ability to think of as possible. Whereas in this group, we all know it's possible.
Yeah,
it's just
and
about.
It was overwhelming to me at first when I felt all the love coming from all these people that I didn't really know in person, and I mean, it took me aback at first, and then I was like, wow, this is real. This is as real as it gets, and this is exactly what I need in my life, and it's exactly what so many people do need, because we get caught up with our ego and yeah, the voices of other people, and the people that you attract into your programs are the kind of people that you want in your life to guide you, to inspire you, and to just be there.
Thanks, and that speaks to something that is super true about attracting the correct people in your life. If you are surrounded by people who are not supporting you, it's because you're being in some way that allows that, right? You're absolutely allowing it and or tolerating it. So the more authentic you can be, yes, if you change how you're being in the world, if you start playing full out, if you start expressing yourself creatively, yes, there will be shakeup in your immediate surroundings, most likely. But that opens the door to now invite people into your life who are in line with that. They're looking at that authenticity and saying, I like that. I'm into that. And now you have a community where you can truly just be who you are. And until you experience that, if you've never done that, if you've never had that experience of being able to just go into a group of people and be exactly who you are, if you've never had that feeling, believe me, the first, like Steve said, at first it was like overwhelming, but as soon as you learn that's, and like what Elena was saying, it's you never want anything other than that, and there's no reason why you should have anything other than that. All right, thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. Those were fantastic points.
I'm sorry, just real quick, and getting people to cheer you on is priceless. You know, people that are really pulling for you, that really genuinely want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
You're not doing it by yourself. You have a crowd of people cheering you on.
Even when you absolutely have lost, we have lows. And sometimes those lows make us lose all the belief in ourselves. And if we don't have a group of people swooping in to say, remind us, no, you're awesome, remember? Then it's so easy just to go back to the old ways of being. Anyway, Steve, thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to go now. Thomas, I saw you. He's popping in and out. I'm gonna just hold this for a second because I want to get Thomas in here. But right now his screen is blank. But I saw him over there. I'm gonna just hope he shows up here in a second. If he doesn't, I'm gonna play another video real quick. But Thomas, you're next. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. But you are absolutely next. So turn on that camera and keep it on. And I promise you're next. So I wanna introduce you to somebody else now. In this particular person is one of my certified Boundless Living Challenge coaches. Okay, the environment was a little bit different because it wasn't a group coaching environment in the same exact context as the challenge or in my regular group coaching program, but it was still coaching. It was all about coaching. I was teaching these people how to coach, you know, with my voice and, you know, all of that. But it was still the same environment. It was still an online, it was the same thing in that sense of community. So I want you to meet Christine and listen to her because she's got some great points too about the how this process and getting in and sharing herself fundamentally changed how she shows up in the world and what was possible for her life. This is Christine Thorpe, and she is a powerhouse, and I'm so happy to introduce you to her. So now Christine is actually one of my certified Boundless Living coaches. So her experience was a little bit different in that it wasn't your typical group coaching program, although it was all coaching, right? It was coaching and it was about coaching. So I'm going to ask you basically the same types of questions I was asking everybody else, and that is what drew you, aside from I guess the idea of getting certified and things, but what was it about this particular setup, the group dynamic, the community and everything that drew you in the first place?
I think number one, Bob, I resonated really well with you because you're real. You keep it real, and I like that. It wasn't all woo-woo or all light and fluffy. So I didn't really know about the group at that stage, and I didn't know how much that would impact me. But certainly it was you who attracted me. Having read all of your books, I definitely wanted to work with you.
Oh, well, that was super nice and unexpected, but yeah, that makes sense. So now once you got in there, what did you, now that you knew that the group dynamic, and you know, the group is always one of those things that it evolves, you know, and we never know really exactly what we're going to, I mean, I have a better idea now that I've done it so many times what's going to happen. But as you got in there, was it what you expected? Was it more than what you expected? Like, what was your experience of just working in that sort of a dynamic?
I don't know if I really had an expectation. I certainly didn't think I would connect to the level I did. Basically, you and all these people really changed my life. The whole program and how we delved in, we supported each other, and it was just phenomenal to the level that this really did change my life and how deep all of this training went. So, like I said, I did not expect the dynamics of the group to really affect me as it did.
So now, as I said, you know, you are a very pragmatic person. You are down to earth. You're real. You didn't come in here with your head in the clouds or anything like that. And I think some people sometimes maybe look at this law of attraction framework and even though I have really de-emphasized that in all of the talk about the Boundless Living Challenge, that it's way more about action. You know, how did you feel about how the law of attraction was? I mean, obviously this was a law of attraction certification, and you know, and my goal in that particular group was to duplicate my approach as much as possible. So of course, as I say, it's, you know, I want it to be grounded. I want it to be based in science. What was your experience with the whole law of attraction conversation in there?
You know, I do a lot of training. I do a lot of your training now, and one thing I say to people is I can pick up a book on brain surgery, but after reading it doesn't make me a brain surgeon. And this is where I think people lose the law of attraction. They read one book and think, oh, I've read it, I know it. And basically we worked through a program that went so deep. It stripped back everything. It was raw. It was everything I needed to do, because in order to move forward, I needed to be challenged. I needed to step outside my comfort zone, which the program really helped me do. Just something as simple as doing a video. That there's no way I could have even done a video or done any of the videos that I do now without your help. And it would be quite funny now, Bob, if we could all go back to that very first video that we all did. We were all so nervous.
Yeah, I've actually had a lot of fun with that in group.
Phenomenal coaches. It's just mind-blowing.
Let's speak to that for a second, because you know, I make no secret of the fact that I do want people to do video introductions and participate via video, and you have stated that, you know, that was tough at first, but now you would never know that. What impact, besides just, you know, that I asked you to do it, how would you say that has impacted you as a person, your confidence, whatever? Huge freedom to be incredibly comfortable in my own skin.
That's basically what it gave me. Where when I was a child, I was a very, very shy child. I think up until the age of 22, if anyone said boo to me, I blushed and I really went red. I could never ever stand up in front of a room. I have stood up in a room full of 1,000. Actually, I think when we were in Thailand, I spoke in front of 5,000 people. That would never have happened had I not gone through this program, because it took me on a journey that I can't believe where I am now. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Las Vegas, people. I'm from Perth in Western Australia. Had I not done Bob's program, it wouldn't have led me to here. So never ever give up. It's just, the opportunities are out there, but you actually have to take action. And doing a program like this is exactly what, I don't want to say it forces you to, but Bob sort of gently encourages you to step outside your comfort zone, and the rewards are huge.
Well, you kind of addressed my last question, which was, but if there's anything more you want to add on it, like what, you've clearly mentioned, you know, the confidence and what you're doing, some of the things you're doing. What other ways has that dynamic or that group environment and so on had a long-term impact? Anything else that you can point to?
Yes, certainly. I mean, the law of attraction has brought things into my life, people into my life. I've been able to let go of people because I've understood, I've been able to manifest things. There is a lot of power in it, but like I said, you can't just read a book and know it. You really need to delve in, and the best way to do it is to do a program and to follow that program. And even if it gets tough, even if you might miss a session, don't worry, just pick it back up, watch the replay. And even if you are really nervous about it at first, just watch gently, and as long as you show up, just show up, and baby steps, step outside your comfort zone.
Well, so thank you for that, and I'm so grateful that we got to be able to connect, because I know here in Vegas you're extremely busy and enjoying the heat. It's only like 109 or so, yeah. But thanks for making the time to have this conversation with us, because you're a great example of somebody who came in, who's already very grounded, very practical person, and has taken your, already a very powerful base and just exponentially exploded it just by doing these things that we've been talking about. So thanks again for sharing your story with me.
Thanks, Bob.
It's been so fun catching up with these people. And now Thomas is on the camera. I'm not letting him get away. We're bringing him in right now. There's no way I'm missing this opportunity. Now, hold on. Let me make sure he's unmuted. I'm going to unmute him myself. Okay. Hi, Thomas.
Can you?
I can hear you. Bob. I can hear you now. Now, Thomas was, again, as I've said, he's one of the original Boundless Living challengers from way back on when, and then he's gone on to do some really cool stuff. And, of course, we've stayed in touch, him and his wife, Stephanie, for all of this time. So Thomas, let's go back in time. What was it about the Boundless Living Challenge that drew you in the first place?
Oh, yes. Let's go back in time. Well, Stephanie joined before I did. I think she was one of the first, 25 people to join up. And so I was watching what she was doing, and it just looked so fun to me that I joined up. And so I think what really made it compelling was, for me, was, well, for one thing, you got to remember that this was pre-live stream. We were making vlogs every day, and then loading them up to the Ning site. It was a Ning site rather than a Facebook group back then, and so it was a different thing. But I was really attracted to your integrity and your transparency, and just the kind of wackiness and goofballness that was going on.
I'm quite sure I don't know what you're talking about.
Now, I say that in all sincerity, but not to diminish the what was going on with people. I was really happy to see Elena was here earlier, because she rocked it, in her in some of her earlier vlogs, and I took to vlogging like a fish to water, and had eventually had no fear about it. And so there were a number of things. I connected with a number of people during that time that I'm still in touch with today, including you, of course, and Wendy Young, and Brad Yates. And and I just had a great time with the BLC. I would say I didn't have a particular challenge per se, but I loved supporting people in their challenges, and I eventually developed some ideas for some creative collaborative projects that came about from being a part of the BLC originally. And one of them was a collaborative audio project that I had a great time doing. And I was doing music at that time and art. I'm a visual artist and a musician. And so I was doing art and music. There were a lot of people doing artwork and music on the original BLC. It was great to see what they were up to and get to know them. And there was a lot of laughing, there was a lot of crying, there were relationships. And I've been taking notes here, watching some of the other people, and the safe environment is key.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to point that out again. It's a safe environment. And so, you know, for some people, it might take some getting used to making videos of themselves, but the support that you'll get will really break through that, you know, that kind of fear factor or whatever, self-consciousness. And so yeah, it was a lot of fun. In fact, you know, I definitely wanted to point out that a few years after the BLC ended, you know, with the momentum that Stephanie and I had built up with the personal development and just having so much fun, that we embarked on the Fundamentals of Transformation Telesummit, which was a huge project. And you were our featured speaker, along with Brad Yates and Wendy Young, and several other people. And it was awesome. But I think the momentum and having so much fun with the engagement in the BLC, you know, I want to really point that out, is the engagement with people, especially now, because we've got live streaming. I mean, you know,
it's really changed it. It's really made it a whole other level.
Yes, it's a new
with technology.
day.
Yeah. And I'm really, really grateful, Thomas, that you really focused on the fun that is had in there, because people can think about, you know, if you've done some group coaching programs, sometimes it's just it feels real serious, and it's all about the stuff you got to work through, and it's just like blah, blah, blah. And we've talked about, you know, the emotion, and we've talked about crying and all this stuff. But the crying is balanced with laughter and, like you said, the goofballness, and, you know, back then that was really the first place that I started to do that, you know, to express that side of myself and just really have fun and try goofy things and stuff. So that gave me permission to say, you know, because really for me to get in there and to be as vulnerable as I ended up being, I didn't know starting that I was going to just lay it all out like I did, but it really just gave me the permission to explore being me, and also made me realize, hey, they're accepting me, even with the doubt. It's not hurting my credibility to be me. It's helping it, you know. Well, and
I would interject there that I think one of the key things that was so compelling about that whole vibe of the original BLC was that you, Bob Doyle, were right in there with your sleeves rolled up, and you were twitching. You know, you were, and so it kind of leveled the playing field. It's like
twitching.
You were twitching,
yeah,
and it was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome. So you being a participant was and is key to the whole dynamic. You weren't just the moderator. You know, you were out in the field with everybody else, rocking and rolling.
That's a true story. And that's what I talked about this before, this DVD, which we're actually going to stream this live for free on August 11th. If you go to the Boundless Living Challenge Facebook page, there's, if you just do a search for Boundless Living Challenge, there's an event there that's scheduled, and of course I wanted to get through this and launch the thing, and then I'm going to be talking mostly about this. But this documentary tracks the whole creation of that first challenge, and specifically, if you want to see me twitch, well, there's a hell of a lot of it in here. So just to underscore what Thomas said. Well, Thomas, thanks. I'm so glad that your camera got turned on and we got to have this conversation.
Yeah, I was just feeling like a total dork trying to figure this out.
It's okay. It all worked wonderfully. So thanks.
You know,
thanks
I'm happy to be here.
Good.
And I just want to encourage anybody that's halfway thinking about it, or 5/8 of the way thinking about it, to do it, because like I said, the BLC in 2008 was awesome, and there were no Facebook groups, I don't think, and certainly not live streaming. And so will bring.
I wasn't even on Facebook. I wasn't even on Facebook. I joined Facebook in 2009. All right, thanks, Thomas.
Man. You're welcome. My pleasure.
I want to also, he said 5/8 halfway. Here's just, and I understand that you would expect me to say this, but guys, if it's even in you a little to do it, what does that tell you? Seriously, think about that for a second. If just for a moment you're thinking, I might, why would that be there? Why would that thought be there if not? Because if you're not going to do this to do it, what are you going to do? It's really this, you're either going to take some action to do it. You're either going to get the support or the resources or something that will give you what we're telling you you're going to get, or you're saying, I'm not going to live my life. I'm going to continue to rationalize it away. I'm going to continue to tolerate it. And I know I'm poking at you a little bit, but there's truth in that. What are you going to do? And I'm just saying, I defy you to find what we're offering for anywhere near the investment, anywhere near it. I defy you. Go ahead, I'll wait. No, I won't wait. I'm going to move on because I saw that Betsy popped in here. Betsy did the challenge with us 10 years ago as well. Thomas knows Betsy, I'm sure. And so I had a brief conversation with her this morning. I want to share her story, and I've just got a couple more recordings to do. And then I've got Dina. Well, I'm going to talk to Dina next because she's been very, very patiently waiting live over here. And then we'll wrap it up. So let's meet Betsy. So this is Betsy, and she was one of the original Boundless Living Challenge participants a decade ago. So hi, Betsy. It's so good to connect with you again.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm very excited about launching the challenge again. So if you can think back 10 years ago to what it was that had you decide to join this challenge in the first place. Do you remember that?
I do. I had, it was interesting. I had my roof fell in, and I had replaced it myself and rebuilt it myself, and then it went bad again. And so I was in this like terrible mindset, and I really didn't know what to do. And my sister was worried about me. Everybody was kind of worried about me, my mental state. And I said, let me just do this thing. Let me try this challenge. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to try this. And if it doesn't help me, then I will do something else. I'll do whatever you tell me to do.
So so you were trying to deal with sort of emotional turmoil? Was that your basic impetus?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you came into the challenge, was it what you expected? Was it wildly different?
It was wildly different. It was one of these mind-blowing experiences that it changed who I became. Everything about it, I learned so many tools that help you reset your mind rather than kind of look at the outside world and try to fix that. And then I made amazing friends.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you think was, because the first challenge went for 45 days, talk about what, like when did you start to feel like, hey, there's something really going on here? Do you remember some of the first shifts that happened for you?
I think one of my first shifts was my first vlog, and I was probably in a state of full-on panic of trying to put myself out there on the internet and just getting some really positive feedback. And then that turned into meeting some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life.
Talk to that a little bit about how because we talk, I since bringing this up, I so focus on these relationships and things like that. Why is that so important?
Because we all kind of went through this shift together. It felt like this, almost like, it felt like a global shift. I mean, I know there was maybe 2,000 people on it at the time, but it felt like we were just this intense community where anything you put out there, somebody came back with, or 10 people or 20 people came back with, here's a tip, here's a tool, you're doing awesome, it's okay, I understand, hey, I was there. So that was really amazing, and I formed relationships that I still have to this day.
So now it's 10 years later. Can you think, because I mean, I know that life just occurs and sometimes things are very gradual. It's hard to point to a specific thing, but is there something that you can point to, or a way that you're being now, or who you are that was fundamentally changed and impacted by just participating in the challenge that shows up even today?
Absolutely. I think my biggest thing is owning it myself and knowing it's within me to make a change and change my perspective on what's going on. You can look at things in two different ways as it, how it occurs. And everything that I do now, I see is about how I'm reflecting out rather than just the world kind of bringing me down. I always felt that way. And now I understand it's my mind working against, or perceiving everything.
Yeah, no, that's a theme that's come up in several of these conversations about gaining the ability basically to look at what's going on out there, and if we have historically had a way of being or a way of making meaning out of things that has not served us, that we turn it negative. Now we have the skill set to make it positive, and then that just, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that allows you to, your whole entire quality of life changes when you know that, hey, I have a choice about how I feel here.
Exactly. I mean, it was. Again, I mean, it was such it was probably one of the most, and I don't want to say, but one of the most transformational moments in my life is to begin this and to take part in this, because prior to that, I was always kind of not believing that, I felt like the world was against me or that I had no choice. And then I did this and I realized, like, this is all about my mind. This is about how I perceive things and how I look at it. So it was incredible. And again, I've met some of the greatest people and the most supportive people in my life through this.
So do you feel, because a lot, because I was in The Secret and all this, a lot of people have this whole, it's a law of attraction thing, and the law of attraction certainly played into that, but would you, and again, I know I feel like I'm putting words in your mouth, but would you say that this was this was a very practical experience for you? It didn't require you to do magical things or magical thinking or whatever. It was you had absolute tools that you could use to walk through this. Is that accurate?
I didn't do any work. I mean, as far as, I didn't go home and read a book or listen to a tape or, go to a class. I just kind of was in the environment that allowed me to kind of grow with the tools that people were throwing out there. Here, EFT is something that might work. Here's something that will work that I'm not required to look deeper into and study. This is a perfect quick tool, and or just the community itself was just so uplifting and helpful that it didn't matter if you were falling, somebody was there to grab you and say, hey, no, that's okay, you did fine, you did great.
Right, and that's so important when some of us don't have that kind of support system in our immediate life. Well, Betsy, right. It's so great to connect with you again, and I'm really happy to hear that the impact that it had in terms of, and just that one thing about being able to choose how you interpret your external circumstances is huge, and that it's still at play in your life. So, exactly. So again, great to connect with you. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Very good. Thanks, Bob.
Oh, I cut her off. I didn't mean to. So, are we seeing a theme? I think we're seeing a theme. I'm seeing a theme. If you're not seeing a theme, I don't know. You need glasses. All right, so look, we've got a few more people I want you to meet, and I know I'm inundating you with these conversations. And remember, you can go over to boundlesslivingchallenge.com at any time and get started. I truly don't know what more we can tell you If you don't see it for yourself by now, I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. So now, Dina, I want you to turn on your camera over there because we're going to talk to Dina. Dina is one of my current, she's in a group currently, and she's all outside. And hold on one second. Let me click on her picture, and we're good to go. So, hi, Dina.
Hi.
All right, you've heard it. You know what I'm going to ask you. So what was the thing that said, yes, I'm going to do this for you?
You know, I think I was scrolling through on Facebook as well, and it was a pretty quick decision, and the price point was a no-brainer, and I just needed, I was just in a space where I wanted more, and doing a lot of things on my own has worked to a certain extent, but it was time to reach out and get more help. So
now, when you came in, I asked this of a couple of people, was it what you expected or was it something different?
Far beyond what I ever thought that it would be. Yeah. It was a little weird at first, you know, being really raw with complete strangers, but you know, after a few weeks that quickly changed, and it's just a really, you know, it's just a nice, safe environment, and people that are like-minded that want more for themselves. Not everybody's like that. So you can't really say to, you know, even people close to you, hey, you know, what are your thoughts on this? Because they're just not, they're not there. They're not there. They're not in the same space of wanting more, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
and what we learn is that we can't make people want things, right? We can't make people be on board with us. So we have to, if we don't want to, you know, change, if we don't want to walk away from these primary relationships, and there's a reason, you know, that are giving us trouble. There's a million reasons not to, right? But where are we going to get fed, right? Where are we going to get what we need to move forward? Now you're a great example of the before and after videos, because we have watched you progress into mostly smiling every time we see you, you know, because you have taken some really bold actions. We won't get into the particulars right now, but professionally, personally, things that take a lot of courage, right? How would you say that the group supported you in taking that action?
Oh my, like 100%. Everyone's there for you, and you know, there's no judgment. There is, you know, we can express our wins, and even if the other people in the group aren't in the same place, they, you know, I don't know, it's hard to put into words, you know, whether it be that you're going through something or that you're breaking through something. No matter what, you have the support of those others with you. And even when, you know, we're not on the talks together as a group in the Zoom room, at any point, anybody can, you know, chime in and do a short little blurb or video, or even type something in, and, you know, you're going to hear from someone, you know, within a few hours. And it's just cool to have. I mean, you don't, you know, at a certain point, you can only say so much to your friends and family. But again, when they're not in the same space, when they're not in that, when they don't have that same desire, you're just kind of bumping your head, and you either choose to just be complacent. In my, you know, in my personal experience, you either just choose to just accept things and be complacent, or you find a tribe. Yeah,
there's so much. We go back to the word tolerating. There's so much that we as human beings tolerate, so much that we don't even realize that we're doing it. And when we realize it, it can be pretty confronting, because there's so much in so many areas that we're tolerating, that when we realize that we're doing it, it can be pretty emotionally tough, because you go, oh my God, I'm just compromising my freaking life away. But you know, and one of the things you said about the community, and I want to make this clear, is it's so safe, because there's no, I think it really shows that inherently we as people, we want to help each other. We want to help. We want to support people. And sometimes the construct of our current relationships just doesn't make us feel safe in doing that. And so when we get into a community where we can just not only be supported, but also support, because you know that no one's coming in with any preconceived notion of your ability to support them. Who are you to support me? That's what our friends and family may say, because they know all our stuff. They've seen how we've limited our stuff over the course of time. It's a clean slate with these new people. And it allows you to be that truly authentic expression of love and support and accountability and everything that makes human beings really awesome at their core before they get tied in to all the stories. And I think that's what happens is we, in our current relationships, we're just a series of these stories, and it's hard to break those stories up. So what would you say, Dina? I mean, again, you as I mentioned, you're up to a lot, and you're like Steve and so many, the careers, the personal relationships, it's the tough stuff, right? It's the stuff that is not for the weak of heart to take bold action, and yet you're doing it. So, I mean, what would you say if you had to sum up the overall impact that this continued support? And again, Dina's been with us for a while. This isn't about, and I'm going to address your question in a second, Jane, that you've asked a couple of times. You've made an ongoing commitment to yourself, and it's not like I'm going to do 30 days or 45 days or whatever. You realize that this is something. This is nutrition that you need on an ongoing basis. What if you had to sum up your overall impact of this, and maybe what you would tell people who might be sitting on that fence? What would that be?
Well, also aside from the group, whoever's in the group, you're really incredible at what you do, and it's a never ending job, improving your life and improving yourself and breaking through things that might be uncomfortable. But, and even listening to other people, like when we're in a group setting, the things that you say always apply to all of us. And when you, Bob, get on a roll, I mean, you've really, I've had so many aha moments where oh my gosh, yes, because I've studied this stuff before. I've studied law of attraction for over a decade. And it's okay, well, why isn't it working fully to where I think that it should be? And I've learned so many, I've learned just so much from you. It's just,
well, thank you. That's so nice of you to say. And putting, it's, it'd be easy for me to be challenged. I could come up with stuff because people are saying some very nice things to me, but I will say, and I've owned this before, this is my favorite thing to do. And I feel like this is where I am absolutely the most effective in terms of moving people into action. The Wealth Beyond Reason program was my ticket, basically, to getting into The Secret and all that other stuff. And I'm grateful for it, and I still believe in it, and all my other little recorded programs. But there's nothing that compares to being able to be with people in real life. Because otherwise I'm just speaking generically, these are law of attraction principles, these are things that, here are some tools, but to be able to get in there and interact with people, it's the juice for me. So I really love doing it, and that's why I've committed that this is all I'm doing. The Boundless Living Challenge is the way to work with me or to get coaching, but also not just me. Like everybody has said, I'm sure we've just beat it into the ground, how awesome everybody else is in this. And no matter where no matter how low you think you may be feeling, or no matter, because we do have our ups and downs, one of the things you learn is you have value. It doesn't matter how you're feeling or how low or inadequate. When you come in and you see somebody else struggling with something and you find, oh my God, I'm feeling kind of low right now, but I've got something to say to this person. And you say it, and then they're impacted by it, holy crap, it's a game changer. When you realize that just because you're feeling low doesn't mean you have no value, doesn't mean that you don't have something to contribute to this planet. And that goes with whatever it is you're up to in your life. If you're not doing it, if you're not playing full out, look, if you've had a dream for a really long, long time and it's not been realized, I really want you to look at, well, how much action have I really taken? You know, how am I playing small? How am I not doing, what is it that I've let stop me doing it? Because what our ego will tell us is that, oh, you've been trying to do it for years. Have you? Or are you telling yourself that you are? Have you gotten up to your comfort zone and then bailed? Or are you really committed to taking the action, however small, every single day? Your ego will tell you it's not working, but are you even doing it? And that's what the challenge gives you, is that environment to do it. So thank you, Dina. I appreciate you being here and sharing your story. Is there anything else you want to say to wrap it up, or are you good?
Just that I appreciate the affordability of it. You know, a lot of us out there, you know, we want to do things, and maybe other coaches or, you know, other programs will say, you know, it's like thousands. And they say, well, you know, then you don't think that you're worth it, you know, and it's like, you know, it just realistically, some of us are at a certain point, and the affordability is, it enables you to do it long term if you're really in it for the long haul. And there's no quick fix with anything, especially this stuff. So.
Yeah, because it's your life, and we've spent our whole lives wiring ourselves to the point we're in right now. And to expect that we're going to see a movie or read a book or do a 3-step thing and it's all going to rewire it's unrealistic, right. And it sets us up for feelings of failure, and it makes us go, I can't do this. I followed their instructions. Right. I watched The Secret 100 times. Why isn't this working? You know, I must not be destined to do it. It's because you need to start taking consistent, different action than what you're taking now. And to do that is not always easy without the kind of support that we are offering here in this challenge. Right. Thank you, Dina.
It's not easy. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Okay, so we've got 2 more conversations to have, and they're fairly short. And these are some very special people, and they're in they're currently in the group coaching program. We've been with us for a while. First, you're going to meet Jonathan, and then you're going to meet his wife Sakita, and they are just lovely people. And then we're going to wrap it up. I went approximately twice as long as I thought I was going to, a little bit more. But you know, you go with the flow. I really didn't know so many people were going to step up and want to share their stories, and so, you know, far be it from me to not let them share. And I think that every single person that we've talked to, if you stayed with this the whole time, awesome. If you know, in and out, that's cool too. But Jane, I want to address your thing. Yes, you can join for a month or 2 to test it out. I mean, if you haven't had experience with me, if you're not sold on the Bob Doyle thing yet, it's okay. Come in for a couple of months, and then if you want to do the year, we can accommodate you, whatever you want to do. But I definitely want you to come in with the mentality that you're committed to yourself. If you're getting any value from it, the idea that, you know, that you would stop. Just I'm not saying, you know, you have to be in it forever, but really look at what's guiding your decisions. All right, let's meet Jonathan. Okay, so this is Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello, Bob. Pleased to see you again.
So now we have been working together off and on for, it seems like a year, a little over a year. Is that right?
It's longer than that. It's longer.
Wow. So tell people what it was that got you interested in doing coaching in the first place. What was it that attracted you to this whole group coaching idea?
I think the original story was that I was getting a bit despondent and full, a certain amount of gloom and despair because I had a future of work and not a lot of wealth, and I couldn't see any other alternative. I just wanted to find a better way. I'd read The Secret, I'd read other books and self development, but it just was not working. It was giving me the ideas, but I just wasn't being able to be practical and just put it into play. So I thought joining a group would make a difference.
So let me ask you this. What was it about what we were offering that you said yes to, as opposed to just any other group coaching program or some other coaching solution?
I think the way you spoke to the initial broadcast spoke directly to me. I think also that the idea of having a group to which we would become accountable, that as I developed, I would learn more about the law of attraction and what was happening. I knew about it, but I didn't know how to overcome the practical day-to-day issues that a group would really put me into the firing line and make sure that I actually got up and did something instead of talking about it or dreaming about it.
Now,
So
do you feel like that doing the coaching and being in the group took this concept of the law of attraction, which can be a pretty woo-woo conversation, right? And did you feel like it grounded it for you, made it a little bit more real?
Oh, very much so. It was very much more of a real, practical, demonstrable ideas and guidance and valuable coaching, and the fact that there were others in the group who had their own issues and their own problems. We were able to share with each other and support each other and help each other. And you listen to other people, they had different problems, but some aspects of their problems were the same as ours.
Yeah.
And it just became a real world practical way of going about learning more and getting off my seat here and doing something about it.
So what do you think then, after all this time we've been working together, what do you think is probably the biggest impact that the coaching has had and continues to have on you on a, in your just everyday real life?
It's brought into focus the fact that I do have a future. The more I pay attention to my own dreams and wishes and pay attention to the practicalities of going about getting on with it and taking action. I think if I had been on my own, nothing would have happened. But with the guidance and support and encouragement from the group, I think that's the most important part of it for me. It's made all the difference.
So again, it's not like we're working magic spells here. We're actually moving you into action where before you either didn't know what action to take or just weren't motivated enough to do it. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Yes. I have. I've been in educational situations as well as my current career, and it's very easy to just say, "Oh, this is a great idea. We'll just follow it." But no one's ever accountable. You just read about it and don't take action. So having a group that's there to make it happen was much more important.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to share this story, and I've loved working with you all this time, and we're continuing. We're still in the process of taking this vision of yours and unfolding it as we continue to work together. So I'm super, super inspired that, that you have not, given up on making new things happen in your life, even from this point forward. So thanks again, Jonathan, for taking the time just to talk to me.
Thank you very much indeed, Bob, for all your support. Thank you.
Can you see why I'm inspired by this guy? I certainly hope you can. All right, so we're going to meet his wife, Sakita, and then I'm going to just a few sum up words, and then I'm going to let you get about your day. Isn't that nice of me? Let's meet Sakita. Okay, this is Sakita. You met Jonathan before, and Sakita is Jonathan's lovely other half. Hi, Sakita.
Hi there, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. So now you and Jonathan came into the program at the same time. What was it that brought, because you guys were totally up to different things. So what is it that brought you into the program originally?
I was fascinated by the idea of doing law of attraction, and I knew about it, but I didn't know how to do it. There seemed to be a missing piece to it, that I couldn't connect with it at all, and I just didn't know how to do it. So I was fascinated.
Would you say that the woo-woo, now I know that you're a very special person, and so I don't think that you are anti-woo-woo or anything in particular, but was that aspect of it, that sort of like intangible part, do you think like that held you back in some way or prevented you from having a grasp on it?
I just didn't know how to do it.
Okay. So when you came into the group, and we spent some time together, because we've been together for as long as we've been with Jonathan, obviously. Yeah. So what would you say? What would you say is, over the time that we spent together, what do you think is the biggest takeaway that you've gotten from being involved in this kind of environment?
I think the thing that I have really found beneficial is the shift in the way I look at everything that I do, so that I'm taking away the negative and concentrating on how to switch it to a positive. And so that I am staying in the line of abundance and making things happen. And it's more about a mind shift with your support has been truly fabulous for me in the way that I work and the way that I am with how I look at everything that happens in my life. And it's been fabulous. I love it. And I do my whole life this way now.
I would say that I agree with you because Sakita is up to a very specific professional goal, and because of the nature of her work, she's got there's challenges. There's challenges that she's up against that are out of her control per se. And so I remember that when we were working together, there was a lot of, there was a lot of heavy feelings. You felt like there was just like, I'm never going to get this. This is just everything's going against me and all that. And certainly recently, as we have had our weekly conversations, you have been demonstrating just masterful abilities to reframe your situation and find a way to make yourself feel good.
Yes, it's looking for the gift in everything, even when it's negative. And that's a major shift for me.
And that's a major shift for most people because we've been so conditioned to take certain types of circumstances, right, and go, oh well, everyone agrees this is negative. This is clearly a sign that it's not supposed to work, and that is no small thing to turn that around.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sakita, for sharing that, because I think there's a lot of people who will relate to that, who look at their life and go, everything's against me, nothing seems to be working out, and they have just unconsciously become sort of a meaning-making machine where the meaning goes negative. And you have been able to take, through the support of the group and the various resources and everything, the coaching, been able to take that and turn that into a whole new skill set, so that even in situations that to most people would look really challenging, even bad, you've been able to take care of yourself emotionally so that you can ride through it with grace and ease.
Thank you. But also it's being accountable to you and the group, which has also been fantastically supportive, because that way you don't disappear, you stay present. And that's really important. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sakita. Folks, it is all about enjoying your life. That's why we do any of this. We want to attract the money. We want to attract the house. We want to attract the blah, 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 right? Why? We're going for a feeling that when we wake up in the morning, we go, yes, another one. Right? It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter any of that. But all of that can happen. But when we're focused on that being the way that I'm going to be happy, it takes us out of the present. And if we're being somebody who is not in alignment with those things, it is not going to happen. Why? Because you're not going to take the action that is required to make that happen. Okay? This law of attraction thing, guys, it can occur as magical. There's no question. But it's still, energy moves. That's how things change, right? And whether you think about it as some woo-woo energy moving, invisible, I'm magic, genie in a bottle, or whether you move, you make the call, you write the book, you paint the painting, you start the career, you leave the relationship, or you start that other one, you are the force that makes it happen. If you're not in action, you're just stuck. And so, again, I ask you, what are you going, if not this, what will you do? Because I think if you've been watching this, hopefully you've got a taste of what's possible if you start doing. If you start being who you're here to be. And by the way, guys, that can change. You know what? You could wake up tomorrow and say, I want to be this, and then next week you could decide to be something else. Will there be some repercussions from that energetically? Maybe, but guess what? You just stay in that being, and then the universe or your circumstances, however you're most comfortable looking at it, will shift to meet that. It has to. And that's not magic and that's not woo-woo. You're going to take different actions, so different things are going to occur. It's end of story. Easy. So it's about taking that action. So one more time, you scroll down to the bottom of the page, and this is what you're going to see. It couldn't be easier to get into this. And if you're new to me, great. Start with the month. Start with month to month. Give it a couple of months or so. My feeling is, literally, if you're in there for 3-4 days and you play full out, you're going to know immediately. This is not what I thought it was going to be. It's so much better, and why would I not save money and just get in? And we've got the 3-pay, whatever, that's just the money piece. Please, I mean, it's easy for me to say I know if money is your issue, but what is it costing you to not do it? I know that sounds marketing, but truly, rise above that, rise above the fact that everybody else says that and it sounds like that. It's the truth. What is it worth to you? We've given you today a preponderance of evidence. Again, I don't know how much more clear we can make what this is. If you have any questions about the structure of it, which we talked about near the beginning, you can go back and watch the beginning of the broadcast if you came in late, where I lay out, well, here's what we do week to week, and here's how it rolls out, and this is what you get. You can go to the web page, you can scroll through and see, but a web page will never do justice to what this program can provide, and that's why we've just spent 2 hours and 14 minutes sharing stories of people who have gotten past whatever it took for them to jump in and get this done, so that they could experience those results. And of course, I mean, I want those results for you, but you've got to want them for you more than I do. And that's just true even once you get in here. You've still got to want them more for yourself than I do, because you're the one that's going to take the action, not me. But the first action you can take is saying yes. And the moment you join, you're going to be taken to a page which is going to send you those resources. It's going to give you very specific instructions. Here's what to do now. There's no guesswork. You don't have to wait until the next session. But the very first Q&A session will be a week from today at noon Pacific. If you can't make it, don't sweat it. It's recorded. Lots of people can't make them because of time zones or whatever. But you can always ask your questions after the fact. You're never ignored. You can post your videos. You're going to get the support whether you're on there live or not. Live is just a bonus. But you're not missing any of the value. But for those who like a schedule and know, well, Bob is going to be live, then it's going to happen twice a month starting next week. It's on Saturday at noon Pacific. We're going to do that first Q&A. We're going to answer as many questions that you have. But all through the week is when it happens. And don't worry, there's clear instructions on what to do. And the thing is, every group is a little bit different. It's very dynamic. I don't have a rigid set structure that says, it has to be this way. I am looking at the group every single day and going, we need to go this way, right? It's not, when I started these things, it was like week 1, we're going to do this. Week 2, we're going to do this. Week 3, and then it didn't take very many groups to go, oh, that's not serving them. Because eventually we're always going to talk about your vision. We're going to talk about intuition. We're going to talk about releasing resistance. It doesn't have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, right? It's when do you need it? When does the group need it? How can I best serve the group? So that's the way I've always approached this, and that's the way I always will approach this. You guys, thank you so much for investing your time with me today, and all of you in the Zoom room who have shared the stories and even hung in afterwards, getting thumbs up from people. It's meant so much to me that you've supported this in this way and said such nice things, and it's so great to connect with some of you who I haven't talked to in a while. It's been fantastic. Again, ask the questions. I'm here to support you. I'm here to answer your questions. And look, one last thing. If you know people in your life who can benefit from this, it's great to come in here with people that you know. Jonathan and Sakita doing it together. So share this video. Tell them what you learned from it. Tell them if you've made the decision to do it. Tell them why you've done it and invite them to be a part of it. It's so much nicer when you have somebody in your life that you can actually, but look, even if you don't, and I know that's the situation for probably the majority of you, you're about to have more people in your life that support you in ways you couldn't imagine than you've ever had before and than you ever thought possible. All right? Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, or whatever day of the week you happen to be watching this on. Have the best of the rest of it, and I'll talk to you soon.